You won't believe what happened when I discovered my neighbor, the notorious HOA Karen, setting up a yard sale right in her front yard. But here's the kicker. She was selling my stuff. Yes, my belongings were laid out like they were hers, and when I confronted her, things escalated faster than I could have ever imagined. This isn't just a simple dispute over property. It turned into a full-blown neighborhood drama, complete with accusations, heated words, and a surprising twist that led to her calling 911 on me. I'm telling you, the tension in our quiet little community hit an all-time high that day. Who does that? Using my things without permission is one thing, but trying to get me arrested, that's something else entirely. As the story unfolds, you'll see exactly how a peaceful neighborhood turned into a battleground, all over a yard sale gone wrong. I'll take you through every step, what I found, how I reacted, and the moment everything spiraled out of control. Trust me, you're going to want to hear this whole story. And just when you think it couldn't get any crazier, wait till you hear what happened next. So stick around, because this is one confrontation you won't want to miss. So here's how it all started. A few weeks ago, I noticed some of my outdoor furniture and garden tools were missing. At first, I thought maybe I'd misplaced them or someone borrowed them without telling me. But when I saw a flyer for a neighborhood yard sale, I got a sinking feeling. I decided to check it out, hoping I was wrong. That's when I spotted my own stuff, right there on her lawn, with little price tags stuck on everything. It felt like a punch to the gut. This wasn't just some mix-up. She had taken my belongings and was trying to sell them like they were hers. I couldn't just stand by and let it happen. When I asked her what was going on, she didn't seem apologetic at all. Instead, she got defensive and started blaming me for some made-up HOA violation. She insisted I was in the wrong and threatened to call the cops. I was shocked. How could someone be so bold? I've always followed the rules, kept my property tidy, and never caused trouble. But now it felt like I was the villain in her story. The worst part, other neighbors started gathering, watching the drama unfold, making it even harder to stay calm. You could feel the tension thick in the air. And then, out of nowhere, she pulled out her phone and dialed 911. What happened next changed everything, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. But I can't tell you just yet. Stay with me, because this story gets even more unbelievable. When the 911 operator answered, I could hardly believe what was happening. The HOA Karen was telling them I was causing a disturbance and threatening her, completely twisting the story. Meanwhile, I was just standing there, trying to explain that she had my stuff without permission. It felt like the whole neighborhood was watching this mess unfold, and honestly, I started to wonder if anyone would believe me. She's got that reputation for stirring up trouble, and some neighbors seemed to quietly side with her, which made me feel even more isolated. At the same time, a few neighbors approached me quietly, saying they'd noticed strange things before, like how she's always policing everyone else's yards, but somehow gets away with breaking the HOA rules herself. There's definitely more to this than just the yard sale drama. I started realizing this was about control, and maybe even a grudge I didn't know existed. But why target me? Was it something about the stuff she was selling, or just to make a point? On the other hand, the HOA board members haven't said a word yet, and I'm starting to wonder if they're turning a blind eye. The whole community seems caught between taking sides or pretending nothing's wrong. It's like this small conflict is exposing bigger issues underneath. Who really has the power and who's being silenced? I wanted to keep things calm, but now I'm stuck in the middle of a storm that's only getting worse. And with the cops on their way, I have no idea how this is going to end. The sound of the approaching sirens was like a countdown ticking louder in my head. My heart was pounding as I looked over at HOA Karen, who stood there with this smug, almost victorious look on her face, like she'd already won before the police even arrived. But I knew the truth was on my side. I had proof those things belonged to me, and I wasn't about to let her get away with this. Still, the doubt was creeping in. What if the officers believed her story? What if this whole thing backfired on me? Neighbors were whispering among themselves, some shooting me sympathetic looks, others clearly uncomfortable but too afraid to speak up. The tension was thick, like everyone was waiting for the inevitable explosion. HOA Karen's phone was glued to her ear, probably giving the cops her version again. It felt like a battle for respect, for standing my ground in a place I call home. As the police car pulled up and officers stepped out, the air seemed to hold its breath. I could feel every eye on me, every heartbeat louder than the last. What would they say? Would they see what I saw? Or would this turn into a nightmare where I was the one in trouble? And just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, HOA Karen took a step closer, ready to speak. That's where things stopped, and you won't believe what happened next. Just as HOA Karen opened her mouth to talk to the officers, something unexpected happened. One of the neighbors stepped forward, a person I hadn't even noticed before, someone who usually kept to themselves. They spoke up, quietly at first, then with more confidence. They said they'd seen HOA Karen take some of my things weeks ago, and even warned her not to sell them. Suddenly, the story started to unravel right in front of everyone. The officers looked surprised, exchanging glances that made it clear they weren't buying the usual disturbance story Karen was telling. But then things took another sharp turn. HOA Karen's phone buzzed, and she glanced at the screen with a furious expression. Apparently, the HOA board had just sent a message, something about an official complaint against me for harassment and disturbing community peace. It was like the entire neighborhood was pulling me in every direction, and the situation was spiraling out of control. Now the stakes were higher than ever. I wasn't just fighting for my stuff anymore. This had turned into a full-on war with HOA Karen and maybe even the whole homeowners association. The tension was unbearable, and I could feel every second ticking closer to a breaking point. The cops were watching, neighbors were whispering, and HOA Karen was clearly ready to play her next move. But what would happen next? You won't want to miss what comes right after this. The officers stepped in, carefully listening to both sides. They asked for proof, and I showed them pictures and receipts of my belongings. Everything lined up perfectly. The neighbor who had spoken up backed me up, confirming HOA Karen had taken my stuff without permission. The officers exchanged looks, then told HOA Karen that selling someone else's property without consent was a serious issue. It was clear she'd crossed a line, and the threat of arrest wasn't going to be on me after all. Relief washed over me, but the tension hadn't completely faded yet. Just when I thought it was over, the officers handed me a note I'd received earlier, an anonymous tip revealing HOA Karen had been running a side business, secretly selling other neighbors' belongings for profit. The entire yard sale was just the tip of the iceberg. It turned out this wasn't just about me or my stuff. It was a bigger problem that affected the whole neighborhood. The HOA board was now under pressure to investigate, and for once, the community might finally get some answers. HOA Karen's confident smirk vanished, replaced by nervous glances. The neighbors around us shifted, suddenly seeing her in a different light. What started as a small dispute had blown wide open, exposing something no one expected. And as the officers led her away for questioning, I realized this was just the beginning of a much bigger story. But don't go anywhere, because what happened next will shock you even more. After HOA Karen was taken away, the neighborhood slowly started to breathe easier. The HOA board finally stepped in to address the concerns that had been quietly building for months. They promised a full investigation into the complaints, not just about the yard sale, but also the larger issue of unauthorized sales and property disputes. It felt good to know that something was finally being done to protect the community and its residents. Many neighbors came forward, sharing their own stories of similar problems, which made it clear that this wasn't just an isolated incident. It showed me how important it is to stand up for yourself, even when it feels like the odds are against you. This whole experience taught me a lot about community, trust, and the power of speaking out. Most importantly, I got my belongings back safe and sound, and the bond between neighbors grew stronger because people realized the importance of looking out for one another. So, If you ever find yourself in a situation where someone crosses the line, remember, it's okay to stand firm and ask for help. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more real-life neighborhood drama and lessons.